welcome to the Conscious Brewer. Today we're going to learn about the bare bones of brewing, and if this is your first time, this is a great introduction to figure out what all you need to brew and basically the steps along the way. Today you're going to want to sanitize your equipment. I use Star Sands, and I usually fill up my kettle first off with the Star Sands just to get everything cleaned off. You really don't need to sanitize your kettle, but it's a good way to go. Here we have it. We're just putting on the spigot. Make sure you don't over tighten it here or you can have a leak. Next, make sure your spigot is turned to the off position. Now we're going to take our airlock out and transfer everything else that needs to be sanitized during the process and put it into our fermenter bucket. Transfer the Star Sands. Here's our brewing ingredients for the day. We got our specialty grains, we have our extract, and in the back we got lavender and chamomile. Those are going to be some specialty ingredients. And then our hops, we're doing one single hop just for bittering today. One thing that's high on the way, we're going to add a lemon into our boil just to give it a little bit extra flavor. And then make sure if you have a yeast packet that needs to be out that it's coming up to room temperature. Here you can see a brew sock. These are disposable. Basically you can use them one time, throw them away. They're 79 cents, so it's not a big deal. If you want something else, we got nylon bags. They come in many different sizes, from small to large. The good thing about these is you can use them multiple brew times. I recommend doing a boil to make sure they're sanitized before. Next, you're going to add your water. Your bucket or your kettle doesn't really need to be too big in this. We're going to be brewing with less water than our total. We're doing 5 gallons today, but we're only put about 2 gallons of water in. If you fill up your kettle too much, you might risk a boil over, so I recommend going about 3/4 of the way up. So here's about where I wound up today. That's about a little over 2 gallons of water for the kettle. The next step is steeping. This is where we're going to extract color, aroma, and flavor from our grains. So once you get all your water in and up to the level, you can use either your brewing sock or one of those nylon bags. And we're going to add our specialty grain into either your sock or the bag. Get it in there, dump it all in. This is really going to add your color to your beer that you're brewing, and also some flavor and aroma. You'll notice when you're brewing extract, you can use light extracts and use dark specialty grains to make a stout. So it does add a lot of color and flavor. The way I like doing it is just tying a simple knot like this with a loop on it. This will help me out to keep it on the edge. You don't want your specialty grains to really be touching the bottom of your kettle, as you can get some more burning that way. So what I use is for bare bones brewing, we're just use this little candy thermometer, so you can really see that you can use a lot of the stuff that you already have around the house. You don't need to go out and buy right away a nice brewing thermometer. You can just attach it like to the side or so. If your kettle is too small, then you can put it on the side so it's not touching the bottom. You want to heat that up to 170. From there, you can start working on other things. I'm going to start squeezing my lemon juice and getting that ready. A lot of the time, you're just trying to figure out what can I do while I'm waiting for the water to either boil or my next step. So you can get everything ready in between those hurry up and wait steps, I call them. Another thing to notice is when you're using any ingredients, try to use the best that you can find. For our specialty flavors we're going to be using today, we're throwing in all organic and making sure we're really getting top flavor into our beer. The better ingredients, the better your beer is going to be tasting. So this one's calling for 1 lemon, and we'll start out small, and then if I need to adjust a recipe the next time, I'll add more in. It's easier to add in more after the fermentation than to have too much. So one of the things about brewing is it's good to have a glass of beer while you're doing it, though don't overdo it. All right, so now we got it up to 170. We're going to turn it off, take the grains out as soon as it reaches 170. You really want to squeeze and get all the good sugars and juices out of there. You can use tongs, or if you have any spoons, just squeeze it in between. If you have a rubber glove, that'll work well too. Now you're going to turn it back on to high. Once your water gets up a little bit hotter, I like putting in the extract now. And a secret to get out the rest of your extract, whether you're using a can or the bags, is to use some of that hot wort and put it in the bag. Shake it up. And sometimes your extract will come in cans. This will work same. Just put a little bit of it in the can and stir it around with like a spoon, and it'll come right out. So pour that in, and you see it's all off. You'll notice that when we're putting the extract in, we really want to take it off the burner and put it on something else. Here we got Sabrina. She's adding our lemon for us. She's our brewer assistant, and she helps pick out a lot of the specialty malts and note tasting. Here's the lavender-chamomile. We're going to add this in when we're adding hops, but we want it all weighed out. So during the boil, your hop countdown starts from typically a 60-minute, and then it goes onward. So if your hops say 60 minutes, that means 60 minutes in the boil. If it says 5, then that's 5 minutes left until you turn the boil off. So something just to keep in mind, 60, when you add it early into the boil, you're going to get more of your bittering flavor. Later in the boil, you're going to get more aroma and more of your citrus notes or pine notes, whatever flavors you're having from that. But from 60 to 30 minutes, you're really getting bittering. Here's an easy way to cool down your wort. You want to cool down your wort as fast as you can to prevent any contamination, and also so you can pitch your yeast. So easiest way, make an ice bath. Get all the ice you can, put it in there, put your wort in. One important thing to note is now is the time where you really want everything to be sanitary. So pay close attention that other stuff isn't splashing in your wort because we're no longer boiling. During the boil, it's not so important to make sure everything is sanitary. Just make sure it's clean. One way to cool it down is just by stirring it. And now my secret is those other 2.5 gallons of water, I'll keep those in the fridge and ready and cold. Once your wort gets down to a decent temperature, pour in your cold water now into your fermenter bucket. Make sure you already dumped out the rest of that star sand and gave it a good wipe down. Make sure you also wipe down your lid, as that can be a source of contamination. So our wort's been sitting here probably about 10 minutes now with some stirring. It's cool to the touch. You can tell pretty fast that, okay, this is a good temperature. You don't want anything hot. If it feels warm, you need to stir or put more ice in. So dump that in from high. And now we're going to add in our other cold water. One thing to know is you really do not ever want to add hot wort, especially to a plastic bucket. You can get some leaching. They're not really rated for high temperature. Also with glass buckets, if you pour in, or glass carboy, you pour in a bunch of hot wort, you could have a potential of cracking your carboy. So after topping off with the rest of your water, here you're going to want to aerate it. So make sure you're using a sanitized spoon or paddle. Right now we're just using kitchen equipment to show you. You really don't need to go out and buy every little thing at once. Start simple, and then if you want to expand your brewing, go out, buy one thing at a time. Figure out what you need instead of just trying to get everything at once. So here we're giving it a good spin, trying to mix that cold water with the warm water and also aerate it. Here's where I put my star sand, just in another little container. I have my scissors. I'll use those to cut open the yeast later, and then my airlock, and then our little thermometer. And you want to check, your yeast will usually have a recommended pitching temperature. So check your temperature, and you really want to make sure you're in the range for pitching. Too hot or too cold could have some negative effects, or potentially kill your yeast off. So right here, we're looking to be right below 70. We're at around 69, 68. So that's totally fine for our yeast that we're using. We're using a California L yeast by White Labs. So just going to stir it up a little bit more, make sure I'm really getting that temperature reading. So first, before you pitch, you're going to want to take a hydrometer reading. You don't need a hydrometer, but I'm going to teach you guys real quick what this is about. Your hydrometer is taking your gravity. So you see on the side all the numbers right there. So we're at 1, 0, and I think it was at 5. You want to notice that the line will be a little bit higher than what you're actually going to read. Next, everything's in there. Yeast is pitched. You're going to want to put your lid on. As I was saying before, make sure your lid was really wiped down. You can use a paper towel with the Star Sands and really wipe down that lid, or soak it. Now we're going to put our airlock on. One thing I like to do is just put the bottom part of whatever airlock you're using and not put anything in there yet. I use vodka. Some people will use Star Sands in their airlock. You just want to use something that's sanitary and that if it falls back in, isn't going to ruin your beer. For me, I don't like the idea of a little bit of Star Sands falling back in my beer, so I'll put vodka. Here you see I've moved it over. This is after a couple hours. We have a little bubble in action.